Okay, this meeting of Williston Basin School District Number 7 is called to order. If everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mrs. Langford, if you could call the roll.
Junt,
Here.
Barsh,
Here.
Wheeler,
Here.
Swint,
Here.
Casmer, Wallstead,
Here.
Renner.
Here, we do have a quorum. Our mission here at District 7 is to inspire and prepare students for the next level of education, work, and life. Our vision is to foster student growth and build trusting partnerships between students, staff, family, and community. And education at District 7 will support our students' intellectual, social, and emotional growth. We will provide students with an innovative curriculum supported by various co-curricular activities. The outcome of our efforts will empower students to make a difference in their community and world. We believe in providing a safe environment where healthy relationships and student growth are our priorities. So next agenda item would be number 2, motion to adopt the agenda. What's the board's wishes here?
I'll move to adopt as presented.
Second.
Yeah, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. On to agenda item number 3, showcasing schools. We have a presentation from Ms. Norby here from Missouri Ridge.
I'm Dina Norby, principal of Missouri Ridge School. Just waiting for them to pull up my presentation. Perfect. All right, I decided to showcase our school by this first slide because I'm nothing without the people that come to work each and every day and do the amazing things for our students. Although not everyone is up there, not everyone likes to have their picture taken, we still want to say thank you to these people who come, love our kids, work so hard, and do it each and every day. Next slide, please. All right, Hawk Facts. I was really excited to start with this last year, and it's just a great way to go back and look where we've come from. So we're kindergarten through 5th grade, Title I school-wide. This is our 2nd year as a kindergarten 5th grade. The first fact, new students to the building. In 23-24, there were 85% of our students were new. This year, 34, and the large population of that is the kindergarten students. So that's kind of a neat fact that we've transitioned into. We're getting there, right? We're getting solid. We're getting our foundation down. Bus transportation, 46% of kids were bused in last year, 26 were bused in this year. New staff to the building, 60% last year, 17 this year. So that's a really neat statistic I thought was great. New staff to positions and building, 23-24 was 74%, and this year was 24. So that 24 meant 17 were new, 24 maybe moved to a different grade level or a different place in our school. So that was really neat to see. Next slide, please. Testing, our favorite slides. So NDA Plus and NDSA are what we're utilizing now. So I'm going to show you some data from 23-24 because with the testing schedule, it is fall, it's winter, and spring. So this week we're testing the winter testing. So what I have is a lot of last year, but I do have a little surprise in the middle, which I'm excited to share with you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, NDA Plus from 23-24. So if you look at the top, at the ELA would be our English Language Arts, fall, winter, and spring. K would be the kindergarten grade level. As you can see, 139, 146, and then we went down a point to 145. So this data, this test is relatively new to us. So when we get to the end of this next year, it will be nice to look back and be able to see what are the trends. Why is it 1 point difference? The growth doesn't look like a lot right now, but that we don't know till we have another year's worth of data to look at and adjust from. As you can see in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, that will be our NDSA state test. And I have those scores too, which I did share last year, but I can talk to you about what did we do with those scores? How did we better our school that way? Next slide, please. Okay, so for 3rd grade language arts, these would be our 4th graders this year. So this was great data to give to our 3rd grade teachers this year to start. What areas did the students struggle? So the red is going to be the state, the green is the district around, and then we are the blue at Missouri Ridge. So the 3rd grade teachers could dive in and say, wow, we did really well at writing and language. Our reading literacy text could use a little work, but we're right on par with the district for reading informational text. So it's good stuff. And then we can give this data to the 4th grade teachers because they can see where the students are coming in. Next slide, please. Same with the math here. I do want to point out a trend, though, with the red being the state and our District 7 is the green. We are the blue. Our math is low across the board, and it is for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But I do want to give props to the district because this January for our professional development, they are bringing in a person in the math department to help our teachers put some more tools in their toolboxes and say, how can we make this look better all the way across the district? So that's really promising. Next slide, please. 4th grade, again, same thing. Looking across our district, Missouri Ridge, as a district, we're doing all right here. We're doing well in the reading, language arts, and the literacy. 4th grade, these would be our 5th graders now, which I like this data again for the 5th grade teachers to see 4th grade teachers to reflect on what areas do we need to get better in. Next slide, please. Same thing with math. I noticed is the math is just low across the board, and so it's not saying it's one school. It's not saying it's one grade level. As you can see, it's 4th grade as well. So again, that person coming in to help our teachers, help our staff, help us as administrators, help the kids. Next slide, please. This one I found really interesting, the science slide. So we are across the district very low in science. So what do we do to fix that? I think we sat down at the beginning of the year, and I want to say a big thanks to Mrs. Helsted because she can break apart all these tests and show the exact areas in which our students need growth. So we sat with the 3rd grade teachers, the 4th grade teachers, and our 5th grade teachers, because even if they're only testing in 4th grade, they test again in 8th grade. So we want those kids to have those growth and have that growth be seen. Next slide, please. 5th grade. These are 6th graders now that went to Central Campus, and I'm really proud of their scores. They worked really hard, and they did. It was tough when we did a lot of different things in Win What I Need Now class, which we'll talk about as well, but they really performed well. Next slide. Again, math, I see that trend across the board, and I think we're seeing it all the way up to middle school. So if we can start in the elementary, it's only going to go up from there. If we can start filling in some of those gaps and help the kids as they get up there. Next slide. Okay, this one's a little different. Why does it say fall and winter? So we decided, what if we pushed our fall test sooner so I could have data for you before Christmas, right? So we tested early in the fall and right before Christmas, wondering, are the testing periods off? Is there something we could do a little differently? So what we did is we challenged our kids and we sat them down, we had them look at their scores, and they were to beat themselves. Could you do better than you did in the fall? Get them pumped up, that ownership. They knew their number, they knew what they were gonna get. So let's see what they did. Next slide, please. Okay, so the top score reading, the top line is gonna be our winter benchmark, the bottom is the fall. So as you can see already in the reading, how much better they did. So the darker green is 2 grade levels above, green is on level, and then we look at all that yellow that got better. In math, same thing, you look at the above grade level, the grade level, and on grade level. So that was a pretty neat to see them take some ownership on their scores. Let's go next slide, please. 1st grade, this one looks pretty good. And I want to say not all growth is going to look monumental. You're not going to get one bar that's all green. It's watching kids that are 2 or more grade levels get to that next grade level and the next grade level. So reading we gained. We got rid of some of the red at the end. Math looks really good on the red. So those students that were 2 or more grade levels below were able to grow, which is really neat. Next slide. 2nd grade, same thing, lots of colors across there. The red in reading did go down. That 11% on the top in reading is really neat because that's a grade level or above. And then in math, we were able to get some kiddos that almost flip-flop there, where they've got that 4% from the 2, so that was really nice. The green got nice. The red diminished a little bit. Like I said, it's never a perfect puzzle, but any growth is great growth. Next slide, please. 3rd grade, again, you see the gains across. Green getting quite a bit larger, and then in the red, the darker red that is 2 or more grade levels, that decreased. That's huge to bring a kid from 2 or more grade levels to a grade level. That's really hard to do. Math, we were able to get some kids above level, and again, reduce that red. Next slide. Reading, same thing for reading, again, more in the above grade level. We reduce the red, which is great. Math is really hard to move in iReady too, I want to point out. Reading, there's a lot of different things with like comprehension, awareness, high frequency words, where math is just cut or dry, black or white. So it's really tough to get, you're either right or wrong right away. So again, some good growth in 4th grade. And last but not least, next slide, 5th grade. 5th grade too, and 5th grade's kind of a hard one because it takes a lot. they're kind of in their learning pathway. So just to move a little bit in fifth grade, it's tough. It's tough to shift those. It's almost like you've learned to do something the same way for so long, you're reteaching those skills. So that's tough, but again, some great growth. Next slide. These are our celebrations. So 5% of our students moved out of the red in reading. 13 moved from below grade level to on grade level. We more than doubled the amount of students in mid or above the grade level, which was awesome. Math, 12% of our students moved out of the red. 11 of our students moved from below grade level to on grade level or above, and we almost tripled the number of students in mid or above grade level. Was that just a chance, or was that moving, testing earlier, having kids be involved in what they're doing? I mean, that just shows when they are there and they want to be there, look what they can do. Next slide. One of my favorites. So we created iRock iReady. Not only did we push this out to the kids and the teachers, we asked parents. We said, your kiddos are going to iRock iReady, and we want you to help. Here's their day. Pump them up. Get them excited. So we had our goal. Our school-wide goal was 2,000 points. We gained 12,514 points from fall to winter. So that was an amazing celebration. We did do some shout outs for the kids that had the most growth in areas. We have pizza parties coming up for them. And so it was a really, really amazing thing to see. We do have, you'll see in the next couple of slides, school news that we record daily, so we were able to celebrate this throughout the school, which the kids really enjoyed. Next slide, please. All right, what I need now. We talked about this last year, and it was just where we take groups and we put kids in groups for what they need. How can we make that more purposeful? And that's what we use the data for. So before school started, I pulled in my strategist and my Title I teacher, and I said, how can we make sure we get the best from our staff for kids? We ask them, what are the best times to have these win groups? What do the kids need the most, and can we reach them? So our Title I and my strategist, they have amazing expertise levels. One is kindergarten through second grade strong, one is third grade to fifth strong. So that's what we did. We allowed my K2 person does all K2, my 3-5 does all 3-5 and works with those grade levels during PLCs and things, just to help support the teachers and support the students, because the students are moving in and out of each grade levels. And some of these groups, which is pretty neat, like we talked last year, they're not just for the low kids. Sometimes the strategists take the high kids. So we have them all over the place. And the last thing would be utilizing our specials teachers. My PE teacher teaches a group. My STEM teacher teaches a group. My music teacher teaches a group. Paras teach groups. So it's just creating this community for the kids, just to help them at any level they are. Next slide, please. All right, BAR, building assets, reducing risk. I'm sure you've heard this from a couple of the other schools that have been here. We are just in our baby steps of this. So we started in August. I do have pictures up here. This is our staff creating a staff family, because we can't bring this to our kids unless we believe it, we feel like a family, and we're all working together to get there for students. So this was a fun activity where we got to share. We threw these little ropes, and we got to share, what did you learn today about each other? About where you want to go with the staff. What do we want to do with the culture? So that was neat. So in our first year, I'm sure you've heard U-Time. It's like a learning meeting where you get to have a fun activity in the morning. We do ours on Monday, because last year we felt our attendance was one of the biggest things that we struggled with. So why not have it Monday morning? So you want to come to school Monday morning and have that fun U-Time activity where you get a bond with your class and your teacher, and we can have other adults come in and have those experiences too. Small block. This is a time in which teachers, grade level teachers, meet, and they will choose a student and they'll talk about them. So we started with students, let's bring strengths to the table. Let's talk about what makes them great. And so we've gotten through 31% of kids already, of our kids right now, as of now. So big block is going to be those kids we talk about in small block that seem to be having trouble or they're struggling. They then come to big block. Big block consists of grade level teachers. It can be cooks. It can be a janitor. It can be any person that interacts with that student that knows them, that maybe has something to give that we can help that kiddo with, whether it's academically, emotionally, any of those things. Community Connect, that's probably one of my favorites. So if the student goes just a section further where it's outside help from the community they need, we have our nurse, we have our student resource officer, our counselor, and myself, that we are able to look into outside sources to bring in to help that kiddo out with something that's happening at home or outside home or at school that we can help them with. And I think the biggest goal is to create a connection. BAR asked us to create a community with your staff, your students. It's a family. And that's the next slide, please. will show how we decided to do that. So this is myself and Mr. Ledoux, my assistant principal. We had the idea, what better do kids want to see than us each morning, welcoming them, talking about the day. What are we going to have for lunch? What can we work on? What positive thing we can do? So we started with Magical Monday. Every morning on Monday, we have a magical, some kind of advice, something fun to share with the kids for the day, or a positive thing. See if you can give 3 positives to 3 kids out there. We have Traveling Tuesday. We go inside the classrooms and the kids actually do the entire news, which is so fun. Wacky Wednesday. Obviously, we were keeping kids in line that day. We had our whistles, our ref gear on. And Friday, which was obviously a coyote game because we support them too. So we remind the kids to go out there and support even more with the community, go to the coyote game. I did not miss a day. The next slide is probably my favorite day. Can you change the slide, please? This is Thankful Thursday. Thankful Thursday, I take 8 to 10 kids, I bring them in, and I ask them what they're thankful for. We have staff members on there, students on there, and they're so excited to see themselves or their friend on there, and they'll tell me, you're famous, you gotta be on Thankful Thursday. Right now, I have a list in the office of who wants to be on Thankful Thursday. So it's really, really fun, and they really enjoy that, just that community piece that, hey, I'm recognized, you see me, you're valid, and I appreciate that you're here every day, and we want to let them know that. Next slide, please. Buddy Thursdays. This was something from last year that we did continue. We went a little step further. If you don't know what Buddy Thursdays are, it's an initiative to team up grade level kiddos to do an activity every Thursday. We did ask the community to come in this year. We thought, how much fun would that be to have community come in too and be part of Buddy Thursday? So as you can see, 2nd and 5th grade buddies, 1st and 4th, and kindergarten and 3rd grade. Just a great opportunity for kids, all grade levels, to say, hey, that's my buddy in the hallway, and to create more of a family environment there. Next slide, please. All right, Hawk highlights. These are all some great things that have been happening from the time school started till now. Welcome to Missouri, it's our back to school night. We decided to have a barbecue. Why not have them come in, meet your teacher, have them fed, because they get home, they're so excited, and that night gets to be long, and why not just do it all that same day? So that was a great turnout. We even got to feed the teachers. Everybody was happy. It was a win-win for all the way around. Student Outstanding Achievement Recognition. This is monthly, every grade level, where we pick a student that highlights areas that maybe they helped a friend, they're working so hard, the teachers decide, and we pick the student out. We don't tell them, we call their parents, and then we have an assembly to celebrate them. We celebrated Red Ribbon Week. As you saw, I Rock, I Ready, Trunk or Treat. We had Santa, who got moved because of the snow, but he still got there. On Friday, 5th grade choir. We were gonna go to the Minot Science Center. That got postponed. Our STEM teacher did have some illness, but we're rescheduled for April to go there. Our I Ready celebrations, and I did save teacher's assistants for last. I really, really, really like that. Our 5th grade students are picked to go in and help out in the specials classrooms as leaders, and they really take pride in that, being able to help the younger students. Next slide, please. Here's our community involvement. You will see the back to school nights up there, our Title I parent meeting. We did a backpack giveaway. So on my counselor on Facebook, got on there and asked just for donations. So we had backpacks ready, filled for kids that didn't have them, just in case like the district ran out or something like that, and the response was amazing. We had the German exchange kids come from the high school and talk about their culture to all our kids and share what does school look like for them? How do they get there? And they really thought that was great. We had a thankful potluck in 4th grade. Families brought in their traditional foods for all the students to enjoy. That was really neat. We worked at McDonald's. We had a book fair, pumpkin patch night, fall music concert, and the family code camp. But I want to say we could do any of this without our PTO. Our PTO is amazing, and they are so helpful and want to do so much. Next slide, please. Vital Network Staff Survey. I really, really like this because you need to hear, what are we doing well? What do we need to work on? Tell me how I can fix things. And so the first one is, my work makes a difference in the lives of our students. We have a 6.26. I didn't say this last year, and I needed to preface this, that this scale is to 7, it's not to 10, it's 0 to 7. Next one, adults in my school, regardless of position, establish good relationships, 6.18. My school is a positive place to work, 6.36. I find value in the meetings I am required to attend, 6.09. I'll take that all day. My building leadership acknowledges the good work I do, 6.16, and I want to keep working here, 6.33. And that makes my heart happy because people want to be there for kids, and that's what they should. Next slide, please. And from all of us at the Ridge, thank you. And that's our sign off. Every time we do announcements, we say squawk, squawk, we are Hawks. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Norby. Board members, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Junt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question on the Hawk facts. One of them that kind of stood out to me, which was a little bit surprising, was the transportation statistic. With
Me
it being
too.
a school so far out there,
Yes.
anything you can point to for that drop?
Why
I
it
mean,
changed?
less
Yeah,
routes
it was
available.
so dramatic from what I saw. I don't know if because of we had 85% last year. I don't know if they figured out right. Like a lot of people pick their kids up. I don't know if it's sports. I don't know if any of that. But I was also surprised because the routes haven't gotten smaller. You know what I mean? There's not less buses, so we still bus out quite a few kids, over like 100 kids. So it was interesting. But I will say when it did start, before Missouri Ridge was a K-5, a lot of the teachers drove the buses too. So I don't know if that's part of it.
Okay, thank you. Was just curious on that.
Board members, any other questions, comments? Mr. Swint?
This is always my favorite part of every meeting. I love what you guys do and the joy that you bring whenever we get to see an administrator talk about their team that they represent so well. Bar obviously has been a huge, so far from what I've witnessed from other buildings, that it's had a great impact on the district. And you being in year one, are you noticing those effects kind of right away and feel like it's really pointing you guys and giving you the information you need and support to get to these areas where you've highlighted?
It is, and I want to say, as a district, we had like PLC process in place. So bar was just an addition to that. So not only do you keep that PLC, but we add small block with that. And then big block is essentially MTSS, multi-tiered system of support, something we did already. But what it did was put it all together as a piece. So we are usually like utilizing the small block information within that. And I think it does help fine tune what you're doing. And Community Connect is amazing because where do you go? What's that next step? And helping us, how can we help the kiddos out in the community that it's not, this problem's not in school, how can we help them? I think that's the biggest thing. So I would say yes.
Another area that I've been impressed with is overall, as you've taken on a new building and watched it grow now, and you're second year there now,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Yes. So seeing that kind of growth and witnessing when I saw your scores for the Vital Network survey, it's my understanding that 5 is good if you see numbers that are 5 and above, and we're seeing numbers that are 6 and above. So great job.
Thank you.
Great way to represent your district, your admin team, and those that have, I hope, are showing great support for you. But we appreciate all that you do, and I'm very excited to see what this Vital Network looks like next year for you.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Wheeler?
Also, chiming in, thank you. Thank your staff.
Yes, they're amazing.
I know a lot of families that are out there. They love the school. I found it interesting that you did the fall test or the winter testing before the Christmas holiday break. Do you think that made a big impact? Because I remember thinking back to my children when they were young, doing that winter testing after a long break from school. They have a tendency to forget things.
Yes. And as a former teacher, it's always been in my mind, like, what if? What if we just see? You know what I mean? And then we're going to have to build that back up after the break. So I did. I decided to roll the dice because I wanted to see if it does pay off. Just maybe something we look for the future, because essentially you're wanting what's best from them. And is it best after they've had a 2 weeks off? Is that and then they're coming in, they're excited, we're doing Christmas parties. So honestly, you're 3 weeks out of true instruction, if you want to be honest. So if we're asking the best from the students, shouldn't we be giving them the best setup for success? That's what I thought.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. So hopefully that's something that can be continued to be experimented with and see if this is paying off, and then maybe potentially look at trickling it throughout the district if others find value in it.
Yeah.
So
And it was amazing. So we got to celebrate on the news and broadcast the scores and the winners. The kids were just going wild about it because the teachers didn't know. We didn't tell anybody who won the best in K2, best in 3-5. We didn't share any of that. So
Oh,
it was,
wow.
it was really fun.
Excellent. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board, Mr. Wallstead?
The Vital Network survey, the score is, I think, just reflective of your enthusiasm, and I appreciate the way you're leading the school with the enthusiasm and passion that you have. Thank you
Thank
to you and your staff out there. Just a thought, curious. Um, Sometimes I think in our schools and academia, we feel drawn towards the students that are really struggling in academics, and we
Right.
give them time and attention, which we ought to. But what about the students that are excelling
Thank you.
in academics?
Yes.
What avenues or channels do we have for those students, and how are they challenged to excel and do even more because they want to do more?
Right, and not be stagnant because they're not being pushed. So during those win times, that's the other part that we did. It wasn't just structured toward the lowest of the low students or the on level. We have win groups that are with the strategist or the title teacher that are high groups. And that just to say, you know what, you're doing a great job too. Last year when we did March Madness, it was for students who excelled. Fourth grade beat fifth grade. It was just fun to watch like those kids that are so good at the things they do. In STEM, Mr. Raj is doing a program with them as well for acceleration too, and PTO has tried to jump into to how can we make this better for everybody involved, or kids that just want to get involved to do more.
I appreciate that greatly. Thank you very much. And one last thing, thank you for challenging students to challenge themselves instead of comparing themselves to another
Nope,
student's
we
score.
said you don't look at anyone else's number. That is you.
I think that was terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Barsh.
Just kind of reiterating the group, especially want to highlight thinking outside of the box to kind of tier that to incentivizing learning. Just heard it with the March Madness comment. You can see that your team is finding the passion in the kids and then connecting the dots, everything from looking back, that measuring stick, to, like identifying that passion, tagging it to the scholastic journey and making that an incentive. I think that's genius. It works. I also wanted to especially touch on the bar with staff. I think we have heard a lot about this bars, particularly how it's helping with the kids. I think this is one of the first times I've heard sending staff through that bar as well, almost as if they are the students themselves, to create that buy-in and to facilitate that.
It was the best, one of the best PDs I think I've ever been to, and the connections made from my staff, that the friendships
Just the
now that would have
culture, yeah.
never have happened. So bar has, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was just as important for us to do it as our students.
I can imagine.
Mhm.
I think that's a huge thing that you guys did that could be beneficial throughout the district.
That was good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Norby. I would just echo all the other positive things that everyone said. I agree with that, so thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Okay, we are on to agenda item number 4, approve the R3 results. The results R3 personal development and responsibility monitor and report. And again, just as a reminder, I'd ask that the board either marks it as making reasonable progress with exceptions, or failing to make reasonable progress. What's the board's wishes here?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to accept the report as making reasonable progress with exceptions.
Okay, we have
I'll
a
second.
motion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead, Mr. John.
On the exceptions, just any of them that haven't quite met the target based off of the indicator. General comment on this one, I think as the committee gets the feedback from the group that's working on updating the strategic plan and then ultimately looking at the results policies, I think that this one in particular maybe needs a lot of work from my perspective. I think there's way too many indicators in this one, and it's way too time intensive for Mrs. Hellstead and anybody else that's contributing to this report, because it seems like it's a lot of manual process, not so much of automatic that can be printed out from one of the systems. So.
Dr. German.
Yes, Mrs. Helsted and I have talked about this, and we've discussed there's a lot happening with those 27 indicators. So we are looking at kind of retooling that. Absolutely.
Okay, board members, any other comments? Okay, hearing no more comments, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Barsh,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye, motion passes. We are on to agenda item number 5, the AMCO presentation. I don't see Brian Osowski here. Was he planning on calling in?
He was gonna zoom in.
Zoom in?
There he is.
Okay. Can you hear us, Mr. Osowski?
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Sound good.
Great. Uh, so I've been visiting with Mike and then Dr. Germanson in regards to the Scarlift program. You know, it was one of the things we were going to look at in regards to the construction of the new elementary school. And then obviously with the measure that was being presented, Williston, along with a lot of school districts in the state, decided to move forward with just issuing debt to secure funds for their projects. And so what I mentioned to Mike and Dr. Germanson is my theory is that there is about 31 to 33 million that revolves in the Scarlift program every year. And one of the things that the Scarlift program allows is for schools to apply for refinancing bonds that were used for school construction that are currently callable. And I believe you have a list in front of you of 5 bonds that are currently callable that were used for school construction. And my suggestion is to apply for some of the Scarlift dollars to be able to refinance. And the Scarlift program, as we've talked about in the past, has an interest rate of 2% for the life of the bond or remaining life of the bond. And so what we'd be able to do is call those bonds that were sold publicly back in the given, 2017, 14, 15, and 16, we'd be able to call those bonds and refinance them at the 2%. Now, that being said, obviously the rates on those bonds weren't horrible at the time. But still, what I've shown is the different savings that the school district could look at if it was to refinance those at the 2% interest rate. So that is my suggestion is to, I think that there will be some dollars available or some funds available through the Scarlet program and based on the way the legislation is written, that it could be used to refinance and I think knowing that could position Williston to be able to get some of those dollars.
Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Osowski? Mr. John, go ahead.
Hey, Brian, this is Chris. What costs, if any, would be incurred as part of this in terms of issuance costs, refinance costs, anything like that?
No, really, the only cost, Chris, would be bond counsel. Well, and I don't even know if they really use bond counsel for the Scarlift program just because it is a state, although it's through the Bank of North Coast. So there probably would likely be a minor attorney fee, but it would be pretty insignificant in the overall savings compared to the overall savings.
Thank you.
Board members, any other questions?
And maybe I'll make one last comment. Even being awarded the dollars, once you awarded, doesn't mean you have to accept them, but it does at least give you the option to look at accepting them.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't think we have any questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, let me know how I can help.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have an agenda item later in the meeting here to decide what the board wants to do.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too. Okay, we are moving on to agenda item 5B, monthly financial presentation.
And one thing I just wanted to point out with the Scarlett program is that it's going to allow us some tools to, you know, as far as budgeting goes, because we'll be able to possibly free up some dollars with the refinancing to, you know, either continue paying the same amount that we're paying and pay those off earlier, or, you know, lower them down to what the new payment will be. And then also with the legislative session coming up, there's talk of quite a few different things being put out there that is going to help school districts with local tax dollars and things like that. So with a combination of all of this, hopefully we have some good options with budgets for the coming year or years coming forward, and, you know, be able to start having some more concrete plans with future deferred maintenance, future new elementary buildings, or, you know, replacing the portables and things too. So lots of good things that'll come out of that Scarlett program. So with the financial report, again, this is as of November 30th. Everything is on track. No, we haven't had any big surprises or things come out with as far as bills and part of the budget. We're going to start seeing some more of the tax dollars coming in, because with taxes being due in November, so you're going to see a bigger chunk in revenue there coming up in December, and then again in November. And then our state aid payments will start or continue to come through as they normally do each month. One thing that we've been working with quite a bit on this year is working with Wilmac, and something that the district hasn't really kept up on in years past is as far as student contracts, when we have students that we have to provide services for, or vice versa. So we're able to pick up a little bit more in state aid as far as the per pupil because of those things. So it's not a huge amount, but every little bit helps. And then as far as like the investments go, I've been working with Amanda at First International here these last few weeks. And in fact, hopefully by tomorrow or Wednesday, we'll do some dollar transfers and be able to move some money over to First International and have that part of it all taken care of. So, but across the board, I mean, you're going to start seeing interest rates come down. And of course, with new administration at the federal level coming through, it's anybody's guess as to whether those will keep going down or level out or come back up. So, and then also, like, a big chunk of that money is in our building fund, and of course with the construction of the new elementary, we're going to be staggering those investments to be maturing as our building ramps up here in the spring, so that we have those that cash to pay for those bills and things too. So any questions?
Board members, Mr. Swint?
How are we doing on account reconciliations at this time? Are we current now?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're all, everything is working out, you know, with all the bank recs and everything is all cleared up and working through. And the only thing that we have that need to work on that hasn't been done for a while is we've got a lot of, or not a lot, but quite a few old outstanding checks that are beyond 2 and 3 years. And so that's my next thing, is to start cleaning those up, because we shouldn't really have outstanding checks more than a year to a year and a half out there. So
Okay, and then state auditors, have you been communicating with them, and do you know when?
I was just actually talking with them today, and there may start some information gathering towards the end of this month, and then we're shooting for the end of February, 1st of March, for them to be on site doing their groundwork and everything. So
Well, I just wanted to quickly say I appreciate what you've been presenting to us each month and the hard work that you've put in. It's great to see. I know this hasn't been an easy task for you, but as one board member, I appreciate what you've been putting out for us and the information you're providing with us with, and the answers that you're able to provide us with at each meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And one thing too that you'll notice probably is the revenue and the expenditure reports are a little bit different this month, but I'm actually now able to use our program that we pay for to get the stuff rather than have to manually put the stuff out into Excel and stuff, so.
I appreciate it.
Board members, Mrs. Wheeler?
I just had two questions. When you said the outstanding checks, are those checks that we've received or checks that we have sent out that have not been cashed?
Checks that we've written that haven't been cashed or cleared the bank yet.
Oh, wow. So other people are sitting on checks for an extended period of time.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, nothing huge. I mean, just little checks here and there that
Okay.
people forget they have, and
Yeah. Well, it still needs to be balanced, so.
Yeah.
How about training, cross-training of staff? I know that was an issue in the past where not everyone in the department was trained and cross-trained.
Yep.
How are things sitting in that regard? Is all of your staff trained now that need to be trained?
Yep, and we're actually, cross-training, so we have backup for payroll, backup for AP. And I'm also working on a few things to hopefully to streamline with the sites so that they're more able to see where they're at, what they're doing, getting the transactions in, trying to go a little bit more paperless, so we're not shuffling paper all over the place, to kind of streamline things that way too. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Board members, any other comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to informational presentation on Solon Elementary School.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Ryan Anderson with J. Dunn, Project Manager, here to give you all a presentation on kind of a construction progress update on Solon Elementary. Everything's going very well. We're ahead of plan on everything, schedule-wise, budget-wise. Everything's in good shape. We are transitioning over to J. Dunn, giving these monthly updates. JLG had previously been doing these through the design phase, so we'll walk you through the report a little bit here. This is, let me back up one step. So we had an owner architect contractor meeting last week. And we presented this as our first meeting with Dr. Jermenson sitting at the table, so we're getting all that communication ironed out. Went really well, had good conversation and establishing those lines of communication and expectations and getting everybody up to speed. This is the report we'll use at that meeting, and then we'll come to the board meeting and present it as well. And it's the same report that the public's seeing. So we've got the rendering on the front page there. Next slide, please. This is, did we?
Can you make it bigger?
Thought we updated this from last.
This is
isn't.
December's, this is not January's.
We have January in our.
You have January's in your packet?
Yep.
Yeah, we have January.
Great. Can we open the January one? Because it's got a better rendering on it too. It's got the right name on it.
See, you noticed that.
Yeah,
I noticed this. I noticed the nerdy engineering stuff.
I'm glad you have your
I didn't notice the pretty picture. Are we getting it? Think so?
It's on. 14-3, if anybody's wondering.
14-3. Don't care. No, this ain't it. Although the nerd in me likes that too. Okay. Well, You guys have the packet there? Okay, I'll just try to speak to it, so. Essentially with that slide we were showing there, that was the December report, and then we had a January slide next to that showing basically the takeaway there is that the foundations are done. They're 100% poured and backfilled. The next slide, can somebody tell me the name of it? Oh, okay, here we go. All right, let's start over. Okay, so we got the right rendering on the cover, and then now this moves into the budget. So I'll draw your attention to the top is our the construction cost. That's J. Dunn's guaranteed maximum price that we finalized at the special board meeting on December 11th. So we're in at $41,424,107, and you can see our contingency amount listed up there as well. And then everything below that 41 million is owner soft costs. You can see the appropriate owner contingency being held on the owner's side there as well. You can scroll down a little bit, please. The items in yellow are somewhat in flux, and that's why we've highlighted them in yellow. They're safe, conservative budgets right now, expected to go down. And I'll take you to the bottom right. You know, we had a $55 million budget, and with the conservative soft costs and our guaranteed maximum price of $41,424,107, we're $4.8 million, $4,841,000 under budget right now. So we've been, that's why I say some of the stuff we talked about at the owner meeting. Dr. Germanson's going to look and, you know, work with Eric and Mike and you know, his whole team and see if you know, we reduce that budget and slide those funds elsewhere or whatever. But right now we're currently holding the $55 million budget, and we're $4.8 million under. Next, keep scrolling down, please. So we got some alternates on the table that are not in the 41 million. The glazing in the corridor, the K1 wing, that's going to be windows down the corridor so you can see into the classrooms. It's small dollars. That's likely going to be accepted. And then the about $300,000 for the irrigated soccer fields on the west side of the property will probably get slid into the project too, is my understanding. The alternative to that was artificial turf at $2 million, which that's not going to happen. And we're talking about expanding the irrigated areas around the site too. So that was alternate number 4. We carried it. It wasn't fully developed during bidding, so it's still to be determined. But those are the moving parts as far as the construction costs and design and things are concerned. Keep going, please. Keep going. So that's just indicating the foundations are completed, comparing December to January. You can keep going. This here just shows our, so our next big activity is going to be the structural steel erection and the erection of the architectural precast panels, so getting our structure up. And on the left gives you an idea of the sequence. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll kind of start in the middle with the crane, and we'll work counterclockwise around the building, erecting the precast and the steel. And so that's set to start in mid-February. And then just a little snapshot on the right, we've finalized the mock-up panel for the architectural precast. That is the last piece of the puzzle to order the precast and actually pull the trigger. And that sample is en route to Williston, or did we get it?
Eyes are on it on Wednesday, and it'll be here after that.
So come Wednesday, assuming the sample looks good, and you know, you may have to adjust some of the you know, the coloring pigmentations and things like that in the mix to fine tune that in. But that's where we're at right now. That's how close we are, and then we'll get that. All the drawings and everything on the precast are approved, and we're getting ready to order it. So keep going. This is our construction admin slide. if there's any questions with it, we're always happy to answer it, but it's really just a running, on the left is really just a running stat of the paperwork and things like that that we're doing with the design team. I guess I'll draw your attention to submittals. You know, we've processed 50 submittals and we've got 100 plus more to go, so we're about a third of the way through reviewing and approving all the products with the owner and the design team to order those. And then on the right is our percent complete. 85% on earthwork, excavation, and backfill. So the remaining 15% is stuff we'll do in the spring to, you know, even all the way down to spreading the topsoil back around the site and getting it ready for landscaping is in there, as well as fine grading and putting the aggregate below the parking lot and sidewalks and things like that. So that's why it's not done, and that's where the remaining activities with that. Long way to go on site utilities. All the materials are out there on site. We were going to start installing and weather shut us down, so where that wasn't feasible. You can see footings and foundations 100%. Waterproofing around the elevator pit is done as well. And there's some sleeving and things like that into the foundation for under slab utilities. But we're essentially at a stopping point. And we are, like I say, mid-February, the next step is precast coming. So while I said everything was ahead of plan, we were going to be going into mid-January was the original plan to finish the foundations. We finished them late December, so, which is great, but doesn't gain us anything, so we're just going to wait a little bit longer until that precast shows up. And then on the bottom right, you can see compared to our 21-month overall schedule, we've spent 14% of our time and we're billed out at about 12%. So that's your overall completions, percent completes. So if you want to skip down to the photos, go up once real quick. I'll just draw your attention to the utilities and the 13th Avenue. So again, every month, and I'm not going to go through this right now in the interest of time. We may dive into some of it more if I didn't touch on anything or something like that in the future. But these activities will change and things like that. You know, precast concrete will eventually drop off the list because we'll be done with that and we won't need to talk about it, and we'll talk about something else. But the utilities in the 13th Avenue is, that is a big moving part in the soft costs. Still trying to figure out with the city what the cost share is going to be with putting 13th Avenue in on the east side of the property. We need a portion of it for fire access and parking lot access, and they've talked about building it all the way out up to 42nd Street. My understanding is that's been peeled back, and now they're only building it about halfway up to 42nd Street. And those plans are going out they're going to be going out for bid mid-January.
Yeah, they're going to city council for approval at the next city council meeting to go out to bid, and then receiving bids back early February. At that point in time, we'll have the information that the district and the city can sit down and work through that cost share, what that's going to be. So expect that early February to nail that down.
And this is why I say, going back to the soft cost budgeting portion, we're essentially carrying a dollar value that would pay for the road, the whole section of the road that we need to get into our property. You've been at the table more with this. I mean, it seems favorable that the city's going to contribute more than that and not make us pay for that whole section, being that it's a city road and things like that. But we're accounting for it, and hopefully can peel that back when the bids come in. The city can see what the cost is and finish those negotiations. Anything to add? Okay. Okay, down to the progress photos. So skip this one. And so you can see, not real exciting, but we will show you the same views month over month. So on the right-hand side is your vantage point. So you can see you're looking at the K1 wing right there, looking to the northeast. And as we go along, we'll add some additional views on the interior and things like that. But, you know, for now, it's just gonna be around the four corners of the building. So if you wanna keep going, the view is not gonna look a whole lot different, but you can kind of see how we're going around the building, so. This is the part of the project where everybody's like, are they even doing anything over there? And then we go vertical and everybody's happy again, so you can keep going down. Keep going, and then there's one final one there, so the four corners. That's our update and our report. Any questions?
Mr. Swint?
I just wanted to verify you weren't charging extra for all that white stuff on the ground out there, right?
Nope, that's included in the GMP.
Thank you very much.
You betcha. Thanks.
I was frankly impressed to see it was as far along as it is, so
Thanks.
thank you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we hit the ground running, didn't we? Like everybody wanted to, and we needed to, so plugging along to get her opened up in 26.
Okay. If there's nothing else, we can move on to CTE Center.
Okay, oh, that's nice.
Or are we, yeah, we're done with that, right? With the Sloan?
Is that the next item?
Yep, that's the next item.
Okay, so I will, I'll just report back on, you know, we had that special board meeting where gave an update on, there was actually 4 items. There's only 2 that really need an update. Everything else was talked about, addressed, and resolved in the meeting. So quickly, the update on the 2 items at the time of the meeting was the hot water and the electrical and the culinary. So at the time of the special board meeting, we were set to install a recirculation pump, very confident that that was going to solve the hot water issues. And miscommunication got shut down for a wrestling event. We did go back later that week and get the recirculation pump in. It did solve the issue. The hot water is circulating through the existing high school and the CT addition. Hot water delivery is good, timely, everything you'd expect. There is as we mentioned in that special board meeting, there's some maintenance items inside the existing school that I don't know if you have any update with that, but it's more about just making things run more efficiently in the school. And so trying to, you know, save energy and things like that, replacing old mixing valves that have burnt, you know, so we're not flushing hot water down the toilet. But from a, you know, do we turn the sink on and have hot water? Yes. So that's good and complete. And then the culinary electrical, at that meeting, I had said we had proceeded, we had ordered the gear. It actually came in earlier than expected, and that is all done as well. The panels are in, and all the circuits are there, and the drywall was opened up, patched back, and it's actually being painted this evening. So that is the final step, and that is done as well.
Dr. Germanson, go ahead.
So we had a meeting also at the APC on Friday with Kinsey Brown, our CTE director, and Mr. Rook, and everybody was happy and things were good, so we're all good on our end.
Good.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to give you guys an update on the superintendent hiring process. We opened up the position on Friday the 3rd, and right now it's posted on the North Dakota School Boards Association website, and it is posted on the school district website. In that posting, there's a tentative deadline, and it's also in that other document I gave you guys with the superintendent hiring process along with the committee members. Now I just want to clarify that for some reason the right one didn't get to you guys, and so there's a couple members that are missing. And so I'll just, right now on that committee, I'm suggesting that Mr. Swint, Mrs. Wheeler, Mr. Barsh be on there. I talked to Miss Judy Billahuse, HR here. She said she would be willing to be on that committee. I called Deb Kemp. She's willing to be on that committee as a community member. I talked to Audrey Larson, the principal at the high school. She said she would like to be on that committee. I reached out to Rachel Anderson, the president of WIA, she was not able to make those timelines work, so she's looking for other WIA members that might volunteer. One person she's suggesting is Linda Gabbert. And so I need to get back to Miss Anderson about that, because I don't know if Linda can do it yet or not, but right now that's who I'm thinking should be on the committee. Is there any right now I think I'm just looking for feedback, and I can bring something back to you at the February meeting to approve. So I'm just looking for feedback from you guys for right now, if there's anything you'd like to see changed.
I'm satisfied with that, Mr. Chairman, so appreciate your work on it. The only thing that I had a question on was on the sample posting that was attached in our board book.
Mm-hmm.
Under the selection timeline, it indicates that there would be interviews with the school board. I wondered if that should just be clarified, that it would be with like the hiring committee.
The hiring committee, yeah, okay. Which doc?
It's on the sample superintendent posting document under selection timeline.
Yes, okay, yeah, I see that. Yep, I'll get that changed. Good catch. Go ahead, Ms. Wheeler.
I just had a question in regards to individuals on the committee. I think this is great. Should we maybe have one of the assistant superintendents be a part of it as well? Or no?
Well, I guess I kind of lean towards no, in case one of them wanted to apply, and I think obviously Dr. German has indicated that he intends to apply, and
Yes.
I don't know if that
Okay.
would be.
I'm fine either way. It was
Yeah.
more of a just pose the question, see what people's thoughts were.
Mr. Swint?
I just wanted to kind of reference our meeting that we had with the administrators and the department heads. I feel like overall, Kyle, what you've drafted for us here, that accomplishes what they were requesting of us. And I feel really confident that we're including them the way they asked to be. And they felt after the meeting that me and Mr. Renner had with them, I got the feeling that from all of them in the room, or at least the majority, that they were very happy that we were giving them a seat at the table for this and taking seriously their concerns about the future superintendent and what that may hold.
Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add my thanks and gratitude to you and the committee as well for all of this. Thank you. It looks good.
My only other thought was should I, as the board president, be on this committee just for helping with logistics and lining things up and bringing information from the committee to the board? I didn't know if maybe I should put myself on this committee too, but I also worried it was getting too big if I added myself, and I didn't want to remove anybody, so that's something I wanted to run by you guys.
Mr. Chairman, I think that you have the vice chairman on that committee, and I think there'll be good communication between the two of you, and he'll represent you well.
And that was the comment I was going to make.
Yeah. Just don't let me down, Mr. Swint.
I feel like I should. It'd get pretty. Well, it would be a quorum then at that point. Yep. And then yeah. So that's why I didn't do that. Didn't add myself. So.
I will say I'm perfectly comfortable with making sure that the information is accurately recorded and shared, but I also am open to the idea of myself being off the committee and you being in that position, if you would prefer, or however the board would like to proceed. I'm okay with not being on the committee or being on the committee.
Okay. Or even, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think with board rotations in consideration, I think this is a good direction to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that sounds good. I'll leave it as is. So we are moving on to,
Mr. Renner,
yes.
can I ask, do you need to vote on that for it to be official, or you're going to move forward with that, and I ask because we're making the announcement.
My plan was to vote on that at the February meeting, the committee. Okay, we are moving on to item number F, Williston Basin School District number 7, decision-making framework. So this is something the administration's been working on for a while to, I guess, develop a process to make sure that staff members are included in decisions that affect them.
Hello, Paula Langford, Director of Public Relations. I just prepared something very tiny. This has been, I guess, in the weekly board update, but just to let everyone know, our decision-making framework that is presented today was developed over the last couple months, and it was reviewed with the Leadership Council, and it was presented to all the administrators at one of our administrator meetings to give their feedback. And then in December, it was shared with all staff, along with a feedback form that they could just submit any questions, comments, anything like that, and optional to provide your name or email. No one did choose to put their name. We had only 4 responses from staff. None of those resulted in us. They were reviewed during executive leadership team of what the feedback was. Some of them were just comments like, looks good, looks like someone needs some busy work, things like that. But there was a couple things on here. We reviewed them in the executive leadership team meeting, and nothing did change in the actual format of it after that. But that's where it's at. And I'm not the expert, but was helpful in putting this together. So if you do have any questions or comments, now's a good time.
Board members' comments or questions? Mr. Swint?
I just wanted to say I appreciate all the work and that everybody's put into this. I know that it's not easy kind of figuring out best ways to make sure you hear everybody but still get things done. And I think that you guys have done a great job on accomplishing something that we can move forward with as a district that people can understand, know where they fall in their roles within the decision-making process, and really have a good reference. So thank you.
Mr. Barsh?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that this is important process, both internally and externally, to facilitate communication and just have a pathway there. So I think this is a great document that I think will serve the district well, both internally and externally.
Mr. Junt, did you raise your hand? Nope. Okay. Sweeler?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Langford. Okay, we're on to agenda item number 6, matters reserved for board action. We had the Williston Education Association has petitioned us. They've taken step 1 of the negotiations process. So do I have a motion pursuant to North Dakota Century Code Section 15.1-16-10, the Williston Board of Williston Basin School District recognizes appropriate negotiating unit for all employees licensed to teach by the ESB or approved to teach by the ESB and employed primarily as a classroom teacher. Teachers, do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Mrs. Wheeler. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? This is just the first step. We haven't got the second part of the petition yet.
I see Mr. Junt's wheels grinding over there as he reads it.
My question is, do we need to have Williston Education Association listed within the motion somewhere?
So I had wondered about that too, but the language that they provide in the handbook, it just says, I put exactly that language from the handbook in there. Yep, that's the language verbatim.
I will say I do believe previously we did always state WIA by name in that.
Mr. Gent, do you have the?
I'm trying to
the
pull the
handbook
minutes
open?
from
I'm
roughly
looking
last.
at the handbook and that's, I mean, I get what you're saying. I thought that was odd too, but
Yeah, I thought we addressed this the last time.
Now, this is a two-step process.
yep. So
I'm trying to remember back. Step 1, I don't think had WIA in it. Step 2 is the one where they identified
identify the
WIA
vendors.
and those negotiating individuals.
Yep. Mr. Rook, sure, you come on up. You're knowledgeable in this stuff here.
Since I did this 2 years ago, this process changed at the legislative level. All this is saying is that WIA is going to petition you to be the negotiating body, and then the next step, which should be next month, they'll give you the list of the majority of the teachers, who they are representing, and as long as they're representing more than 50%, at this point, as long as you recognize that this petition was turned into the board.
Turned into the board, okay.
And accept that the
'Cause I
petition was
think
turned
what-
in, that's all that matters.
I think we're questioning whether we should put in the motion.
Because at this
and
point, you're just acknowledging that the local education association has provided you,
and that's what the handbook said.
yeah,
It
because
just,
they're just providing you notification that they intend to negotiate this year, and that's all it is. The second step is representing them as the negotiating body, but they have to collect signatures before they can petition that, but they're just telling you, hey, our intention is to negotiate. So hopefully that clarifies.
Yep.
That was a big change that we went through a couple of years ago, I know, and it took some confusion by everybody that time.
Yeah, and that's what I,
and then
that's
in the
why I made
past,
the motion as is, because I remember it being a two-step process. But I understand the wheels turning.
Mr. John, did you find it yet? Are you okay with that?
I'm satisfied with that. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing no other discussion, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsh,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye, motion passes. Okay, next agenda item be motion to approve Dr. Richard Fadley's amended contract. What's the board's wishes here?
I'll motion to approve Dr. Fadley's amended contract as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, hearing nothing. Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsh,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye, motion passes. On to agenda item 6, approve Dr. Jason Germanson's amended contract to reflect the new position of interim superintendent.
Move to approve as presented.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
I just wanted to thank Dr. Germanson for stepping into the role and taking on the extra duties. We do greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Hearing nothing, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsh,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye, motion passes. Agenda item number D, approve making payments to J.E. Dunn for the Williston Basin Career and Technical Education Center. What's the board's wishes here?
I will motion to approve making any outstanding payments to J.E. Dunn for the Williston Basin Career and Technical Education Center.
Second that
They
motion.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank J.E. Dunn's representatives for putting in the work to get this done in a timely manner once it was brought to their attention.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question. Does the district have a global resolution between J.E. Dunn, EAPC, and the district Dunn who's paying for the costs that have been incurred on top of what was originally under the contract.
Can you say that again, Mr. John?
Does the district have any sort of an agreement or global resolution between us, J.E. Dunn, and EAPC as it relates to any additional costs that have been incurred, such as the additional electrical work that needed to be done that was outside of maybe the scope based off of the design flaws at the time?
Okay, Mr. Swint, you said you can.
Under item 6F, we will be approving the payments to EAPC. At that time, my motion will be to exclude those items, as those were design flaws relating to EAPC directly with the electrical work.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Henderson.
Push the button. So letter D is just to, we have our final pay application outstanding for $717,000. The culinary electrical was not included in our contract, and so there's no amounts in that payment that is related to that. I believe that would be 6E, some consideration on that. The answer to your question is no. I don't know what's happening with that. We've incurred the cost, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet, but the $717,000 outstanding payment doesn't have anything to do with the culinary electrical or the recirculation pump that we added to the hot water. Neither of those were in the design or part of the contract.
Does that answer your question, Mr. John?
Yes.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing nothing, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Junt,
Nay.
Barsh,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Renner.
Aye. Motion passes. We are on to agenda item number 6E. Approve compensation to J.E. Dunn for fixing design flaws at the Williston High School. So this would have been, J.E. Dunn purchased a pump and added it. However, my recommendation would be to take no action on this item yet, because there hasn't been any invoices sent yet for this item that I'm aware of. So I would, my recommendation is to take no action at this point in time.
Do we need to make a motion to table this since it's a part of the agenda that was approved?
We could motion to table until we receive invoices and then make a decision if you want.
Then I motion to table 6D until further information and invoices are provided.
You mean 6E? Did you mean 6E?
My apology, yeah, E.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Wheeler. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just quickly, any invoices that come in on this, can we direct them to make sure that they're extremely thorough in the process of what was done and what everything relates to, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, hearing nothing. Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Barsh,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye. Motion passes. Next agenda item would be item F, approve making payments to EAPC for the Williston Basin Career and Technical Education Center. What's the board's wishes here?
I would motion to approve making payments to EAPC for the Williston Basin Career and Technical Education Center, not to include any additional design flaw dollars.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Swint. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Last call for discussion. Hearing nothing, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Nay.
Barsh,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye. Motion passes. We are on to agenda item number G. Motion to rescind policy ABAC, virtual learning. This was requested by Mr. Junt to get put on there. Me and him had both talked that we felt that we were taking an excessive amount of snow days due to having the ability to virtual learn, so we thought we should put it on here for at least a full board discussion on whether or not we want to continue allowing virtual learning on snow days.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to rescind policy ABAC, virtual learning because of weather or other conditions.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Seconded. Mr. Junt, I'll let you go first. You made the motion.
Yeah, kind of the driving force for me on this one is I just don't think there's a lot of learning happening on these virtual learning days. Little to no learning, I think, in a lot of households. And every day that we take one of these as a virtual learning day has an impact on student achievement. So I think it's time for the district to remove this as an option.
Dr. Germanson, I know you had a few comments you wanted.
Yeah, my comment was, moving forward, I think there might not be as many snow days as we have had in the past. So I'll just.
I would like to say, I agree with Mr. Junt. I do think that when we have these days, there's not a lot of learning occurring. I do struggle with removing this policy because it is a tool that's available. So I don't like taking that away. I do think there needs to be a better design in how this policy is utilized. And I do think that if our educators are guided by the administration on what needs to occur on those days and the standards that need to be expected on those days, and that we as a district are ensuring that the tech is readily available and being sent home when these weather reports are coming out and these expectations are occurring, I do think that this is a policy that can work for our district. So I feel like taking it away is tough for me if the right people are making the decisions. But I do think I, as one board member, would like to know more of how you will make this work effectively in the future, in my opinion.
I'm gonna let Mr. Barsh go here. I think he raised his hand.
Just reiterating a good amount of what Mr. Swint said, I hate to fully rescind this policy, but I do think it makes sense to pull it back for more structure and maybe more communication, both internally and externally, of what the expectations are on these days. How should they play out from the student's perspective and the parent, who in that case is an educator? What is their role? And I think there's maybe some gaps there that may need to be addressed, but I would think I would like to have staff kind of respond to that and then give us guidance on how to move forward.
I'll go to Ms. Wheeler and we'll come back to you, Dr. Germanson.
Yeah, I agree with both Mr. Barsh and Mr. Swint on their comments. I hate snow days. I wish that we didn't have to do them occasionally. Sometimes circumstances happen, and the last thing I want to have happen is that we have students having to make up a day, especially if there is situations that are outside of our control. So having this policy in place eliminates having to make up those days if something happens that's out of our control. If we have a citywide power outage and we're not given grace by the state to not have to make up those days, now we're having to force families to make up those days because we don't have this policy in place anymore. So I think the policy's been used as a crutch to allow snow days to happen when maybe they shouldn't have. Maybe an early dismissal should have been done instead, or a late start. But just outright removing the policy, I think, would be a disservice.
Thank you, Mrs. Wheeler. Dr. Germanson, I'll go to you then to come back to Mr. John.
Okay. I would agree. I appreciate that this is a tool. I would love to have some of our teachers come and administrators and explain things that we have set up that maybe you guys haven't heard. So we would love to maybe present in February on that to show what goes through, because there are, when there looks like a snow day or virtual day, we would say that we send emails out, the principals start emailing the staff and the parents and putting things together. So I would love to share some of those things, but I would agree. I would like to say my 2 cents that it would be hard to go back to like making up days and that kind of thing. So it's a tool. It can be used for good or for the other way. So if you would, I guess, leave it and would like to revise it, I would love to present next month on what our teachers and principals are doing.
Mr. John?
Yeah, I think even if the district is executing flawlessly in regards to how we're going to conduct virtual learning, it's not happening at home. Students are out ice fishing, students are hunting birds, students are at the bowling alley. You've got parents that are a lot of times working during those snow days. Work is still open. Students aren't learning at home, even if the district is taking the appropriate steps in anticipation of that snow day. I think there's little to no learning occurring at home for a lot of these students.
I would concur with Mr. John's comments. Formerly working in retail, I know that when there was quote-unquote snow days, it was one of the busiest days, and you saw families out shopping on that day. So for some reason, they could get to the big box stores, but they couldn't get to school. So, and I'm old school. I had 12 years of school. We missed 2 days of school in 12 years because of snow, and they were back to back in the Great Blizzard of 1977. Doesn't that sound old?
Mr. Barsh? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the point I would highlight is what is education, what is learning in these environments, and how can we trust and work with our staff to understand what we're expecting out of these days. It definitely won't be a classroom environment. So what type of learning skills, learning pathways, different types of curriculum can we utilize on these days specifically that maybe facilitates different types of learning, social learning, different types of learning avenues. It's a different time of education, and I think where we're at with the challenges we have, we need more resources, not to take them back, but I do agree that there is vulnerability to it just being a day off, essentially. There's some accountability that we need to work towards.
Yeah. Mr. Swint, go ahead.
I will say, from a parent of an elementary school student and high school students, I get to see kind of firsthand the actions that occur at the elementary level, and I can say it at my daughter's school. They're sent over a lovely list that she gets to do, working with, doing things around the house, different math activities that she does, reading activities. I'm not going to say she's up at 6 o'clock in the morning like she normally would be, and I think it's different for every household, because I have teenagers that getting them up at 10 on a snow day would be like pulling teeth. So I think I agree with Mr. Barsh. I struggle with taking a tool away without giving our administrative team an opportunity to show us how they can make it more effective. It's really hard to erase something and not at least allow them an opportunity to respond. And I think that's part of trusting our administration down to the classroom teacher, is how can they respond when something that they believe in could potentially go away.
I see both sides of this, and I think though what it comes down to is the last 2 snow days we've had. I think we could have very easily had school maybe a late start the one day when there's no travel advised right away in the morning, but I think the kids probably could have been at school, and that would have been better than online learning. But I also do struggle with taking away a potential tool that it could be good. So I see it both ways, but I think we've been calling snow days too easy, too quickly. Is there any other comments from the board?
Mr. Renner, can I speak to maintenance in regard to snow days and time?
Sure.
Just so that you guys hear from my standpoint. Obviously, I've been a teacher for 20 years, so I understand where you're coming from for the virtual learning thing, because virtual band is not a real thing that can happen. I just gotta throw that out there. But from our standpoint, this last snow day that we took, it actually took us well over 100 man hours to move snow out of parking lots. Just to clear snow. We actually worked all day that Thursday moving snow starting at 4 a.m. We finished at just after 4 p.m. that day. So one of the concerns that we would have from a maintenance standpoint is if we are not going to go virtual, we will most likely have to contract out snow removal for at least 2 of our buildings to just make sure we can have buildings open by 10. And that's a cost that'll have to be incurred. And I don't know whether that'll sway you one way or the other, but from a maintenance standpoint, we don't have the equipment or the manpower to move snow faster than about 100 hours. So anything over about 2 inches, especially this last one, the whole back CTE area took 3 of us in Bobcats with dump trailers and a plow truck almost 30 hours just to clear that area because it drifts in so bad back there, and we have to haul the snow out because there's nowhere to pile it. So just from building access, that's something that we have to worry about as well, and just wanted to bring that to your attention because we don't pay for snow removal right now. Our team does that in-house. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Swint?
Just reference to that, and I understand that we do a lot of stuff in-house now. I do know previously we used to contract out the high school, and it does cost. I understand that. But that is one area where I think I'm okay with the high school being cleared by a professional company, just because there is a lot of property up there, and we do not have the manpower within district to move stuff in a timely manner. So I feel for you guys in that, because I've seen us work through that, and I remember those contracts before previously. So I know it can be costly, but it was definitely helpful across the district because they normally did get it moved fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if we took the high school off our plate, we're probably talking $4,000 to $5,000 a snow removal bill on that, but we could certainly have things opened up a lot faster.
Okay, last call for discussion. Okay, hearing no discussion, the motion on the table is the motion to rescind policy ABAC virtual learning. Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Motion is to rescind policy ABAC because of weather and other conditions.
Yeah,
That-
well, it'd just be a motion to rescind policy ABAC.
Okay, I'm just reading what you said.
Sorry.
Okay, Swint,
Nay.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsh,
Nay.
Wheeler,
Nay.
Renner.
Nay. Okay, motion fails. We are on to agenda item number 7B, public comment. Public participation at board meetings is governed by district policy BCBA. Meetings of the board are conducted for the purpose of carrying on the business of the schools and therefore are not public meetings but meetings held in public. Although there is no legal requirement that the public be given an opportunity to speak at board meetings, it is the policy of this board to afford that opportunity in accordance with the following procedures. 1. Only items on the published board agenda will be discussed at any meeting of the board unless the superintendent or a board member requests an addition to the agenda of a regular meeting and the board members present approve in accordance with the board policy. 2. No individual may speak more than once. 3. Please state your name for the record. 4. State the agenda item you are speaking to. 5. Comments will be limited to no more than 3 minutes per individual. And lastly, public comment will be limited to no more than 30 minutes in total. The board has adopted policies governing patron complaints. The public is required to seek redress through these policies. The public will be prevented from commenting on a topic if it is one governed by district complaint policy and the complainant has not followed the procedure contained in policy and/or the policy prohibits the public from bringing the complaint before the board. Or 2, concerns a topic that is prohibited by law from disclosure to the public, such as a student's educational record. Undue interruption or other interference with the orderly conduct of board business cannot be allowed. Defamatory or abusive remarks are always out of order. The presiding officer may terminate the speaker's privilege of address if, after being called to order, he persists in improper conduct or remarks. Furthermore, any individual who is persistently disruptive of a school board meeting may be removed from that meeting by order of the presiding officer. If you wish to provide any public comment this evening, please step forward to the podium, announce your name for the record, as well as the agenda item you are speaking on this evening. Okay, seeing no one stepping forward, we're moving on to item B, the response to previous public meeting comment. There was no comments at the last meeting. So we are on to agenda item number 8, superintendent consent agenda. What's the board's wishes?
Motion to approve the intendant consent agenda, if I could read, as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Wallstead,
Yes.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsch,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint,
Aye.
Renner.
Aye, motion passes. Now we're on to agenda number 9, board consent agenda. What's the board's wishes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd move to approve the board consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
Seconded. Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Mr. Chairman, can
Yep,
I
go
ask a quick question on 9D here?
Yep.
The authorization here on this one, Mr. Arnold, is this just to submit the application to refinance those callable bonds, and then there will be an additional item to the board to act at some point if we want to continue to levy the same number of mills and keep the payment schedule the same, or reduce the mills at a lower payment rate?
Correct, because as Brian mentioned, that, we're just gonna do the application, then they'll send back our options, and then you guys can choose yay or nay to actually proceed with the refinance or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing nothing, Mrs. Langford, you can call the roll.
Junt,
Aye.
Barsch,
Aye.
Wheeler,
Aye.
Swint, Wallstead,
Yes.
Renner.
Aye. Okay, we are on to board debrief of the meeting. I will, I guess, lead that part. It was a pretty lengthy agenda, but we got through it in decent time, so I appreciate everyone being, I guess, not repeating everything and just getting through it. And thank you for everyone and your input. And yeah, is there any other comments any board members would like to make? Okay, all right, well, go Bison. Have a motion? Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned at 8:07.
Can we get a quick update on the score?